Good evening. Also tonight, an Australian student jailed for 4 years and 3 months in Hong Kong for committing a manslaughter after drink driving. And NASA plans to send the astronauts to Mars around 2030 in order to permanently colonize the planet. A Perth businessman has told a Corruption and Crime Commission hearing he paid more than $100,000 in bribery to a former senior public servant. Susan Scott begins our coverage.
Businessman Ian Johnson told the hearing he faked quotes and submitted them to former public servant Wathumulud Wickramasinghe to win Department of Health contracts. Mr Wickramasinghe was responsible for awarding contracts for building work at Royal Perth Hospital. It has been alleged in the CCC hearing that the former senior manager netted $800,000 by using his former management position. Mr Johnson gave evidence he made the fake quotes high and then provided a lower quote from his company, ensuring he was awarded the contract. He gave evidence that Mr Wickramasinghe demanded he give him thousands of dollars in cash, pay for his home renovations, council fees, computers and even a family holiday. Mr Johnson says Mr Wickramasinghe suggested he fake the invoices and asked him for the bribes. When asked by the Commissioner why he agreed to do so, Mr Johnson said it was to ensure he kept getting the contracts because he was desperate for work. Susan Scott, DHK News.
The WA Greens says the party would be concerned if the Labour Party reneged on its long-held opposition to uranium mining when it reopens its debate in next year's state conference. Braden Edwards has more.
The Labour leader Eric Ripper told the ABC yesterday a new set of circumstances has been created by the current government, which is poised to approve the development of a mine.
Mr Ripper says his party must now respond to the new circumstances. The Greens MP Robin Chappell says any potential shift is a worry for the health of West Australians and the welfare of the state's pastoral industry.
There are two potential risks which leads to immediate a legacy of health impact.
Mr Chappell says that Labor is becoming more of a centrist party and that many voters are moving toward the Greens for their continued commitment to environmental protection. He said the Greens may evaluate their relationship with Labor if they do not continue to oppose uranium mining.
In future, we will evaluate our relationship based on what governments go to elections with, and we'll have to determine our sort of position at that time. In all areas of politics, you live or stand by your commitments, and we don't seem to change ours, whereas others seem to change theirs.
Labor will determine their position next year. Braden Edwards, DHK News.
Property analyst says the Perth house prices could fall further in the next quarter after dropping significantly in September. Richard Lee reports.
Perth's median house price fell 5% in seasonally adjusted terms to 480,000 Australian dollars in September. The fall makes Perth the country's weakest performing capital city market. RP Data senior research analyst Cameron Cusher says there is a definite softening in the market. Mr. Cusher says uncertainty over the mining tax could be a factor. He also says another factor is that the market grew so strongly between 2001 and 2004, and then again between 2005 and 2007. Mr. Cusher believes some investors are hoping the market will soften further. He says the slow first home buyers market indicates rental prices are likely to increase the next year. Richie Lee, DHK News.
An Australian student has been jailed for 4 years and 3 months after being convicted of manslaughter of a taxi driver in Central last year. The lawyer for the man, Kesley Mudd, suggested the High Court that he was only partially responsible for what happened, but the judge disagreed, saying the defense was baseless and distasteful. He also criticized Mr. Mudd for failing to show any remorse. Legislators have vowed down a motion of thanks for the Hong Kong Chief Executive's policy address following a 3-day marathon debate. It is the 4th time in 6 years that Donald Tsang's policy statement has failed again to gain support of the Legislative Council. It is also the 9th time that the legislators have rejected the motion of thanks to the CE. A former legislator, Mandy Tam, has appeared in Eastern Court charged with bribery. The ICAC says Ms. Tam offered a free cinema 2 days before the 2008 legislative election to induce voters to support her. No plea was taken and Ms. Tam was released on a bail of 10,000 Hong Kong dollars. The case was adjourned until November 23rd for the defense to study the evidence in the case. This includes a 93 minutes audio recording and around 250 pages of documents. Emergency supplies are finally arriving in the remote Indonesian island slammed by a tsunami that killed at least 272 people. Jana has more.
Elsewhere in the archipelago, the toll from the volcanic eruption has risen to 30, including the mountain's spiritual caretaker. President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono has cut short a state visit to Vietnam to rush home to deal with the dual disasters that struck Indonesia within 24 hours, straining the country's ability to respond. The first aerial surveys of the region hit by the 10-foot tsunami revealed huge swaths of land underwater and the crumbled rubble of homes torn apart by the wave. 2 days after an undersea earthquake spawned the killer wave, the casualty count was still rising as rescuers landed for the first time on the Mentawai island chain, which was closest to the epicentre and worst hit. Bad weather had kept them away previously. Jenna, DHK News.
The death toll from Haiti's spreading cholera epidemic has topped 300 as fears over the violence and fair voting cloud the path of next month's election. Moit Masahir has the details.
Electoral officials still say that the presidential and legislative polls will go ahead as scheduled on November 28, despite the cholera outbreak which has sickened more than 4,000 people since last week. The World Health Organization said earlier that the epidemic's unusually high death rate was slowing. But figures issued on Wednesday by Haiti's health ministry have showed that the cholera outbreak was spreading, with cases confirmed in 2 new provinces in addition to the initial outbreak zones in Artibonite and the Center provinces. Moik Muzahid, DHK News.
Humans could send to Mars one way as part of NASA's plans to permanently colonize the other planets. Richard Lee files this report.
American scientists have confirmed that they are looking into possibilities, sending astronauts to other planets by 2030. It would take the volunteers 9 months to get to the red planet, and they would leave knowing they would never see Earth again. This is because it costs too much to fly them back. The mission, titled 100 Years Starship, is likely to cost over $11.2 billion, and it is relying on grants and donations. The world's billionaires have reportedly been asked to contribute. Richie Lee, DHK News.
President Obama has robustly defended his policies and promises in an appearance on the popular comedy program of The Daily Show. Moit Muzahid reports.
President Obama has robustly defended his policies and promises in an appearance on the popular comedy program The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. Obama, whose Democrats are expected to suffer big losses in Tuesday's congressional elections, was light on jokes but heavy on policy, as he said on the show it would take time to fulfill the pledges he made during the 2008 presidential campaign.
Over and over again, we have moved forward an agenda that is making a difference in people's lives each and every day. Now, is it enough? No. And so I expect, and I think most Democrats out there expect, that people want to see more progress.
Stewart, one of the more influential comedians in the United States, pressed Obama over the gap between his promises and his accomplishments, and described the White House's legislative achievements as timid at times. After achieving healthcare reform and an overhaul of financial regulation during the first half of his term, Obama highlighted energy and immigration reform as issues that would be on his agenda for the next 2 years. Moik Muzahid, DHK News.
And finally tonight, if you love race cars like Ferrari, then this article will definitely make you happy. Ferrari has opened the largest indoor theme park in the world to satisfy those people who are fond of their sports cars. They have also the fastest roller coaster in the world. The organizer says the project has taken around 2 years to complete. The theme park is able to host around 10,000 people per day. And those are the news from DHK. I'm Ivan Leung. Thanks for your company, pleasant viewing and good night.